Hello friends, welcome to Shriram's. The topic for today's discussion is RBI Priority Sector Guidelines. What changes did the RBI introduce in priority sector lending last week? There are many changes which include financing of startups under priority sector lending category of the banking sector, more credit flow to districts with lower PSL, double loan limits for renewable energy and health infrastructure, more credit to farmers and weaker sections. Why were the changes made? It is to align priority sector credit with emerging national priorities and inclusive development. It is aimed at better credit penetration to credit deficient areas, increasing lending to small and marginal farmers and weaker sections, and boosting credit to renewable energy and health infrastructure. How does it seek to reduce regional economic imbalances? RBI, in its revised PSL guidelines, decided to rank districts on the basis of per capita credit flow to priority sector and build an incentive framework for districts with lower flow of credit and a disincentive framework for districts with higher flow of priority sector credit. Higher weight of 125% would be assigned to incremental priority sector credit in identified districts with a per capita PSL is less than Rs 6,000, and a lower weight of 90% would be assigned for incremental priority sector credit identified districts where the per capita PSL is more than Rs 25,000. Hence, lagging districts will advance more credit to targeted sections and sectors. 184 districts with low per capita PSL credit flow will benefit. A higher credit flow to rural sector is expected to boost rural consumption and investment, which is critical when the GDP contracted 24% in April-June quarter. What are the changes in farm and renewable energy sector? Two fresh categories are made eligible for finance under priority sector. Loans to farmers for installation of solar power plants, for solarization of grid-connected agricultural pumps, and loans for setting up compressed biogas plants. Doubling the loan limits for renewable energy, bank loans up to a limit of Rs 30 crore to borrowers for purposes like solar-based and biomass-based power generators, windmills, microhydel plants, and non-conventional energy-based public utilities such as street lighting systems and remote village electrification will be eligible for priority sector classification. For individual households, the loan limit will be Rs 10 lakh per borrower. How will startups benefit? Loans up to Rs 50 crores can be availed by startups within the priority sector, but the startups should not be in direct cultivation, nor should they be MSMEs, because the latter have their own incentives. Is there anything for small farmers and weaker sections? RBI increased targets prescribed for small and marginal farmers and weaker sections. How is the inadequacy of social infrastructure reflected in the changes? The RBI has doubled the credit limit for improvement of health and school infrastructure, including those under Ayushman Bharat. Two important details are bank loans up to a limit of Rs 5 crore per borrower for setting up schools, drinking water facilities and sanitation facilities, and loans to a limit of Rs 10 crore per borrower for building healthcare facilities, including under Ayushman Bharat, in Tier 2 to Tier 6 centers. What are critics saying? While most changes are welcome, there is criticism too. RBI has ranked districts depending on per capita priority sector credit and disincentivizes priority sector lending to the better performing districts. This will harm areas that are serving as engines of growth in the country. It is wrong to disincentivize lending to areas which are showing a better performance by renewable energy or infrastructure or other priorities. Expansion of priority sector lendings to startup is also not good news. This is a sector in which mortality rate is abnormally high. It needs to be funded by risk capital and not by banks. It can lead to non-performance assets ballooning in the financial sectors. What is priority sector credit? For the last 50 years, since bank nationalization in 1969, RBI has been directing the banks to give a portion of total credit to priority sector, which includes agriculture and allied activities, micro and small enterprises, poor people for housing, students for education, and other low-income groups and weaker sections. It applies to all banks, public and private, domestic and foreign. 40% of credit is the norm. For regional rural banks and small finance banks, the limit is 75%. This is essentially meant for an all-round inclusive development of economy as opposed to focusing only on the privileged sector. Is there any interest rate benefit for priority sector loans? Priority sector guidelines do not lay down any preferential rate of interest for priority sector loans. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast.